and then you whisper. I'm not done being Peter Pan, and no, I won't go. 'Cause growing up is for suckers.
And welcome to Ball Hawk Blab. Whoa. Welcome to this week's edition of Ball Hawk Blab. Only come to you one day later than we normally try to, so we're getting better at that. Ball Hawk Blab, the first and only video baseball podcast inspired by Ball Hawks, for Ball Hawks, more so by the great Hall & Oates. Tony? Yes, those fellows back there.
Woo!
Tony, what's on our show agenda for today?
All right. Unfortunately, we're going to kick it off with a, dead guys. Not good news out of the MLB this last weekend. So we're going to talk about that. Then we are going to focus on this. Not necessarily my hair or even David's sweet Conando hair. But we're going to talk about guys named Harry and then the best MLB players with the coolest hair. And then we're going to do our favorite segments just for Mr. Cole Adkins. I think you guys can guess what that is.
We'll talk about some weather. All this show is dedicated to the great Halo hair. But like Tony said, on a more of a somber note, discussing some of the recent deaths in MLB. It seems a lot of them have been car accidents happening in the Dominican Republic. Tony, you want to kick it off? Any of your thoughts on these tragedies and players being taken?
Yes, obviously it is something that people are gone too soon, as well as for speculation, I think it would be much too soon. I know that there was a bit of a discussion, if you follow me and Larry and one of our favorite viewers, Exiled Mets fan. We discussed a little bit about the potential, not necessarily epidemic yet, because it's only been a few players, a few too many, but only been a few players. This kind of recent uptick in Major League Baseball players that are dying in the Dominican, or some of the Latino players that have also died, like Jose Fernandez did just this last year. When it comes to the Dominican thing, I did read some research about the Dominican, and it is the country with the second highest number of fatalities per 1,000 people. So per capita, it has the second highest driver fatality or automobile fatality crashes. And from what I had read in there, it looks like a lot of it is speed kills, as well as alcohol-related crashes, and then just disregard for laws in general. Not saying that either of these crashes had anything to do with those things, but Major League Baseball players do kind of fit in those buckets, and let's hope that that's not the case in either of the two crashes, Yordano Ventura or Andy Marte. Whether it's the Dominican or here, please, people, speeding is one thing, and unfortunately I think a lot of us do that. It shouldn't happen, but especially don't drink and drive. It's just dumb at this point. Just don't.
All right. And I think I read an article this afternoon that the police released some preliminary findings in Yordano's case that they believe speed was an issue. Also that there was a heavy fog at the time. So those things combined, and the fact they also said that he was not wearing a seatbelt, all kind of contributed to that accident. They did say they did not find any alcohol in the vehicle or at the scene. So hopefully that's that's the case. It doesn't make it any better, but no, I'm sure, it doesn't bring them back one way or another. But I guess a little something can be taken from it that it may have not been alcohol related. And then I think, along with Andy Marte, a lot of the same issues of speed and not wearing a seatbelt contributed into the actual fatality. So, I mean, a lesson learned that, just make putting on a seatbelt a habit. I don't even think twice about it when I get in my vehicle. Doesn't mean that I don't speed or things like that, or drive faster than I probably should at times, but be safe at least.
Yeah, especially like you said, when there's conditions, when there's weather that affect it, especially then, coming from the land of snow and ice on the road, just it's better to be cautious than to end up dead. So I guess that's,
I was gonna say, we look at it, and a lot of baseball fans look at it as, you're losing a baseball player and a big part of your organization, but these are real people with families and everything as well. That it goes beyond baseball, and all their teammates as well. Yes, they're teammates, but they really build a huge bond in a fraternity, for lack of a better term. The one that Tony Clark used in the Players Union statement that he released, but they're pretty much like brothers. And I know that Ventura had a lot of issues with some other players and teams within baseball. He got accused of throwing at people's heads and stuff at times, but I think when the players sit down and look at it, yes, all that happens in the heat of the game, but they're all baseball players, and they all have a certain a kinship or a understanding that they all are a very special talent of people that only a few thousand people in our lifetime are really ever going to realize. So they're more than just baseball players. They're people's families, their brothers, sisters, sons, and things like that. So it goes much, much deeper than that.
And when you talk about Giordano and his potential issues on the field, I think a lot of that really stems between two things. He died at the age of 25, so he was still really, really young in the game. And the people that he did throw at, it seemed like that was in those high leverage games when there were kind of issues on both sides. He took offense to some of his guys getting hit or some of the plays on the field. It doesn't make it totally right, but I would say there's a really cool book that maybe we can do another show about in the future, but it's called The Code. There was one for hockey, there's one for baseball, and I think that especially him and his team followed that rule. And also when you look at a lot of Latino players, there's a lot of emotion, which makes it really great baseball to watch. And part of that emotion, especially for him, it seemed like was sticking up for his players or intimidating to the point where you might hit a guy here or there. I don't think it was ever super malicious, and no matter how much he rubbed people the wrong way, I don't think people would have ever wanted him to go on the disabled list, let alone end up dead.
All right, and I think if you think about some of other Dominican players as well, another one that really sort of stands out was Pedro Martinez, who is a rather similar type player as Giordano, of being really emotional and fiery, and he got accused of headhunting at times as well. Making some in-game adjustments here.
Woo! All right.
All right.
Should we talk about some brighter news, something to do with what Cole is telling me is the coolest look that I've ever had? I call it my really emo Flock of Seagulls 80s / I'm sad, depressed type of music. So, David, who are a couple of guys named Harry in the major leagues that you enjoy? So
Tony and I, we did a couple of things. One, we went through baseball and to find some Harry players, not necessarily like Harry and the Hendersons or anything like that, but we have discussed Harry and the Hendersons on the show before. So the first player I found, his name was Harry Chitty. And Harry Chitty has a very, very interesting backstory. Harry played for 12 years for the Cubs, Athletics, and Tigers, as well as the Mets. He was a catcher. He was also known as being one of the premier knuckleball catchers of his day. He debuted at the age of 17, the ripe old age of 17, one of the youngest debuts of all time. But the thing that I found out to be most interesting about Harry Chitty was that he was actually traded for himself. He was a part of a trade where he went from Cleveland to the Mets for a player to be named later. And he was actually the player to be named later. So he got traded back to Cleveland for himself.
Weird.
So he was the first player ever to be traded for himself. I think it's happened 3 other times in baseball. So, Tony, do you have a Harry player?
Yes. My first Harry player, I went with a Hall of Famer that he almost – it was almost a poop joke. His name is Harry Hooper. Not Harry Pooper, but Harry Hooper. He was born in 1887. So, he's a little bit older than us. He played from the age of 21 until 37 for Boston and then the White Sox. So that's pretty sweet. He got both colors of socks. And it looks like he was a decent player. He got about 2,500 hits and even got 75 home runs. So during kind of that late dead ball era, going into more of the juiced ball, he could knock it out of the park a few times.
He must have been a real swinging from his ass, I guess. All right, my second Harry player. Unfortunately, he never made it to the majors. He was a minor league player, and his name was Harry Palmer.
Woo!
And Harry Palmer, I don't know what he was doing. Maybe I don't know why his palms are so hairy, but Harry Palmer had a brief career. It only lasted 2 years. And he played for both the New York Giants as well as the Philadelphia Athletics back in the 40s. For the Richmond Colts, New Jersey Giants, as well as the Nashville A's. So unfortunately, Harry Palmer never made it to the show. He never got to show his wares up here in the big show.
So since he didn't get to play in the bigs, do you think he was just playing with himself?
He may have some other friends to play with, but yeah, he probably was playing by himself a lot. Down there in the minors. Your
first Harry goes to a guy who traded for himself. Then
right.
Your second Harry been playing with himself.
He may have been.
My number 2, my Larry, is Harry Lord. That's right. Oh. Our savior himself was Harry. Harry Lord played even early.
Jesus did have some nice luscious locks. I'll tell you that right now.
That's very true. But when you look at a picture of Harry Lord, he's not that hairy.
Oh, that's kind of an oxymoron.
Yeah. He played for a few teams here. Again, Boston, and then the White Sox. And then he even played for Buffalo. Yeah.
Way back when, huh?
Yes. So the early 1700s is when Harry Lord was playing. He was 5'10", bat left-handed, threw right-handed, and played third base and left field. So he must have had a decent arm on him.
He probably could throw both hands as well. All right. Moving on to our next segment. Tony and I also want to look at, since this is our hair show, Tony's got himself a nice head of hair there. I'm working on my mane. We decided to look at some of the best hair in baseball. And I think Tony and I kind of took different approaches at this, but as always, it all comes together at the end. So, Tony, would you like to start with how you approached your hair balls?
So I have a list of 5 guys, and 4 of them are current players, and one of them is a recent inductee to the Hall of Fame. So I saw him play during his career. So I went more modern with guys that most people know, and just kind of stuck with what I thought were good. You know, we basically have the best hair in the game, especially the ball hawk game. And compared to the other podcasts that's around, we're up here and they're
our hair game is superior to theirs.
beyond superior.
I think Larry needs a haircut, anyways.
If our hair was a Great Lake, it would be superior.
And there's the people like Lake Erie or like Titicaca.
Ooh.
Sorry, Miss Abneri. We shouldn't use such language on our show.
That's true. So I will start to share my screen here and start off with my number 1 on the list, and that is Mr. Coco Crisp.
Oh, hey, Coco.
So Coco is
Is that Ice-T's wife, Coco?
I don't know. I think he might take offense to that. But Coco's hair is just amazing. I am jealous of that. If I could do that, I would.
I would call that frotastic.
Because there's fros and then there's like a Coco fro. That's, oh man.
Would that be a Coco Puff?
Ooh. Hey. I would hate to see what the rest of his hair on his body looks like. Moving on. Number 2 is actually a guy with no hair on his head.
Oh, where is it?
It's I should say on the top of his head.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure he also has hair in other places because I think he's a full-grown boy.
Under his arms.
Yeah, and from what I hear, Johnny Gomes is trying to make a comeback. So we'll see if he gets back on the good graces of another roster. But this may have been what tipped the Royals over the edge and got them that World Series.
It would inspire me to play well, just because I'd be afraid of him.
Now, would it be the hair or would it be the tattoos?
I think the menacing look on his face might do it.
That's true, and probably the ripped off sleeves because it's not even nicely cut. They're ripped off.
I think he did it with his teeth.
Yeah, although we can't see if he does have teeth. And knowing Johnny Gomes, he might not have any teeth.
That's true too.
The next guy, I hear he has a fantastic Johnson. He has a
He's one of the best Johnsons of all time, is what.
It's the bird exploder himself, Randy Johnson. Back in the 80s, mullets were in, and Randy's was probably the top of the list for baseball. Because
so is that the most Randy hair in all of baseball? At least the most Randy mullet.
Yeah, he's very Randy.
Hey, Randy.
What sets him apart too is this fashion, this area right here on his lips. If you look at that, I think that may have, if you dye it a little bit black, Johnny Depp kind of took that over and made that big. So I don't know if Randy got any Pirates of the Caribbean money, but maybe he might want to look into that.
He should.
Then is a guy who is going to – he ruffles a lot of feathers and he gets a lot of what I think is undue hate. He has a lot of hate. Let's just put it that way. It's Mr. Bryce Harper.
Oh, and they had the platinum shot there, nonetheless.
Yeah, look at that. That's silver right there. What can you say? You gotta say that he has some damn fine hair.
I just felt a little all hot and bothered myself.
Was your Randy Johnson getting bigger?
Randy Johnson's he's a big guy to begin with, so he's 6'10", my friend.
Yeah. So Bryce Harper, great head of hair, and who cares if it takes him like an hour to make it look good? Some guys just have to look good, and Bryce, it's working. Then my next guy is a bit selfish, and there's a blog named after him, and also about his hair.
I hear is it an award-winning blog?
It's a very award-winning blog.
Maybe it'll win a Blabby next year for best baseball blog.
I don't want to. I don't want to push it too hard myself, but if it ends up winning, I wouldn't say no.
Okay.
So I'll show you the progression of Trevor Plouffe. This is from his days back in probably just out of high school, playing for Team USA. You can tell.
Nice shortcut.
Yeah, really crew cut. Nothing fancy going on. Looks like he was maybe doing it like a shout out to the military since he was playing for USA.
Yeah.
Then you look at the 2009 photo shoot for the Minnesota Twins, and the reason why I know that is because I own this jersey. Yeah. That's when he was going to be number 1, so that's why there's a 1 right underneath there. Growing it out just a little bit of wings, a little bit of feathers, but not much on the face. Then,
where'd it go?
Happens. 2012 happened, and
Must have been hot that summer.
That's actually right after he got his head shaved by Anthony Swarzak, and that is what inspired the name Plouffe's new hairdo. So check it out, type it into Google, and that will lead you to my blog, Plouffe's New Hairdo. That is in 2011, shortly before the catastrophe with the scissors or whatever else was used. A little bit longer, looking good. There it is. And probably it's long.
Is that you, Tony?
I know. Isn't that kind of creepy? Looking damn fine. And yes, that is. I would like that whatever amount of money was earned during that period of time as well. So put that into my bank account. And then recently, he's went with a little bit more Northwoods / hipster look, and finally added a little bit of hair to the face, and really cleaned up the top. So.
Yeah, and I think too, like probably after the game, he left in a flannel shirt.
Yeah,
I could see that, with maybe carrying an axe or something.
Probably. So that is my top 5.
That was a mighty fine list.
Thank you.
I did mine a little differently. I went with the best of actual different hairstyles. So we'll have some overlap. We'll share some, but at the same time, we will venture down some other roads as well. So my first, Tony and I shared. Now, I'm looking at the best fro. And the best fro, I did have Coco Crisp as like the modern day best fro. But you got to go all the way back to Oscar Gamble, I think, to really give a where does all the baseball fro started? I think you look at Eddie Murray had a great fro back in the late 70s and 80s, but I think we go all the way back to Oscar Gamble in the 70s.
Yeah.
Of having the best fro in baseball.
Plus, that was right around 5 cent beer night, so that's sexy.
Yeah, I mean that right there. I mean, just trying to think of how you could play with a fro out like that. My next one, I look at other sports as well, and Yarmir Yager probably had the best fro, the best mullet in all of sports history. This, I think, right here is a Colt Atkins-inspired Kentucky waterfall. There's a lot of business up there in the front, but look at that party going on in the back. That's definitely a Kentucky waterfall right there. Colt Atkins. You may know all about the Kentucky waterfalls,
which is funny.
Also inspired here,
Czechoslovakia.
Oh, yeah, it is true. I wonder if Czechoslovakia is kind of like the Kentucky of Europe.
Kind of shaped similarly, almost.
And moving on to music, Billy Ray Cyrus probably had one of the best known mullets of all time. That luscious head of hair. Now, I mean, if you look at that hair, then I guess you can kind of figure out what went wrong with Miley Cyrus.
I was just gonna say, what do you mean, Billy Ray? His name is Miley's dad.
Oh, okay. I was wondering. But no, just looking at it, I think I came up with 2 baseball mullets. John Kruk had that luscious mullet right there. I think that's really, really probably one of the great ones. Along with, we had our good friend Randy Johnson, the big Randy, with the big Johnson hair.
So question for you.
Yes.
Do you think that incident in the All-Star game was actually probably over who had the better mullet?
I think that that aspect really was never looked into, but now that you bring it up, I think it was a mullet war.
Yeah.
The great mullet war of Oriole Park at Camden Yards.
Was it 93? Somewhere around there?
Let's see. It must have been like early 90s. I'm trying to think of. Let's see. That was the year that Griffey was putting them off the warehouse. So that party was right there about that time. So I had to weigh the facts of who had the best mullet in baseball. Was it John Kruk or was it Randy Johnson? And this is my deciding factor is you have Chris Farley imitating you. So it's got to go to John Kruk. I mean, it's not even a contest when you factor in Chris Farley. So John Kruk, congratulations. You win the award for the best mullet in baseball.
Look for your blabby in the mail.
Yeah. Oh, just a blab. Just because this isn't the official blabbies.
That's true.
All right. My next category was the best serial killer haircut, and that goes to Ross Grimley. I think this haircut right here just screams, "I'm going to murder you," along with the look on his face and his kind of creepy mustache.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to lure you in as a sexual predator, and then he'll end up killing you.
Yeah, like I don't know, like he'd probably offer you candy, and then kill you, take you out in the middle of like the northern woods of Minnesota, and like just dismember you or something.
Was he part of Manson's clan?
It would not shock me if he was. I mean, he did get into the Hollywood crowd. It wouldn't shock me if he got into the baseball realm as well.
Maybe he was the Ted Bundy of Montreal.
Maybe that's why he was in Montreal. He killed some people here in the United States, so he fled over the border to Canada.
Do we know where he's living now?
He's probably out somewhere in the woods, I would think.
Just like Dexter.
Yeah. So. All right, my next category was the most luscious locks of all, and I had to go with the local flair of Dansby Swanson. I know all the ladies swoon, all the ladies swoon and throw their panties at him, just because of his hair. They find him dreamy, and you know what else? You know who else found Dansby Swanson's hair dreamy? Tony, hello.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was lost. Ooh.
Were you lost in his hair?
Yeah.
Well, the national championship trophy found his hair dreamy. I think he slept with it.
Ooh.
So I don't know what Dansby and the national championship trophy did that night. I think it's something Miss Abneri would not approve of, though.
Lucky trophy. I mean, that's a nice head of hair.
So there could be some little national championship trophies running around with all this big, luscious locks of hair. We just don't know about them. And wrapping things up is
so Dansby.
Yes.
It's more like Damsby.
Or Damsby. Like, yeah. And the last category that I looked at was the best peroxide jobs. And there's a few that I came up with. One I couldn't find. Well, here, let's go to the one I did find first. Mike Piazza's blonde ambition tour, I guess is what you could call it. It doesn't work for him. I don't know why he went with it. It looks terrible.
Oh, that's not even like he can't even be in the Backstreet Boys. That's bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's just bad. Another one that I knew of, but I couldn't find a picture of it, was when Roger Clemens went all platinum as well. I think it was when he was with Toronto.
I was going to say
I think it only lasted. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you weren't alive in the late 2000s or don't remember it because you're too young, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, late 90s.
Yeah, yeah, especially late 90s because Eminem was big, and it's what we did.
That's right. I've actually done it before myself. I am guilty as charged, but that is not the best bleach job, peroxide job in all of baseball. Well, hold on a second, because I think I have one other one. Oh yes, AJ Burnett's hair. Longer look with the platinum, but again, not the
Another
best
AJ?
one. What? Pardon me?
Is it going to be a different AJ?
Bam! Our very own AJ Przinsky with his nice peroxide blonde hair. So that's Ballhawk Blab take on. I don't want to share my screen anymore. Thank you. That's our Ballhawk Blab take on the Great Harrys, Heralds, and the hair of MLB. Tony, you got anything else to add when it comes to hair?
My pants are tight because of all this great looking hair.
With a shorter pair tonight, I mean a little slimmer fit.
Sure.
Oh.
Sorry, Mrs. Ebneri.
All right. And I think that brings us to our last segment, our Cole Atkins dedicated look at weather.
Yeah. So how's the weather down there?
Well, I think last week I was telling you about all of such a great weather we're having. It was the 70s, wearing shorts and short sleeve shirts and no jackets. It's kind of taken a little bit turn for the worse. Not too bad. I think we've been in the 50s, mid 50s, but it's been raining a lot and some thunderstorms, which I really enjoy a nice thunderstorm, but no, when it's raw and windy out there, not as much. So hopefully our weather will improve, but I'm still thinking we'll get a couple cold snaps in here before too long. Weather up there in the great North Woods.
Weather has been fantastic. It's been above freezing for like multiple days in a row. Our snow is almost all gone. And,
that's too bad.
Well, tomorrow we get to replenish that snow stock. So
there you go.
We're looking at super, super wet, heavy snow, and that should be really fun to shovel. It's probably going to be my last significant snowfall that I'm going to have to shovel. So I'm looking forward to that aspect of no longer owning a home, as well as being 1.9 miles away from Target Field.
Oh, it's just a stone's throw away.
Yes. So, and that's the other thing. Just the other day, it was so warm that I went to the Tight Jeff show. That's right. Tight Jeff's album, Lutheran Teens, is now available. Thank you for Tight Jeff for sponsoring this episode. So I went to that show without having to wear a jacket. All I was wearing is a nice hoodie. And it was so warm that I could get away with that in January in Minnesota.
Nice. It's always nice when it's unseasonably warm weather, especially when it's balls ass cold.
Yes. So Twins Fest is going to be this Friday for me, and Braves, are they on the schedule yet for their fan fest?
From what I've heard, they're not having one this year. I think a lot of it has to do with the transition from Turner Field to the new stadium. I think there may have been some other thing they could have done. There's a convention center right across the street, of the new stadium. So no Braves Fan Fest this year from what I've heard. In the past, I've done caravans. They travel around the Southeast, going to different states to promote the players. I think the word is that the players weren't crazy about taking bus trips from Atlanta all over the Southeast. Kind of get it, but no, at the same time, suck it up.
Yeah.
Last year they did it at the stadium for the first time in a long time. It wasn't organized all that well because you were putting all these people on the concourse level of, or not the concourse level, but the club level, and you literally could not move and get past certain points. So not having it this year, which it's unfortunate, but oh well. What am I going to do?
Is there going to be an open house for the new stadium anytime soon?
They're supposed to be, from what I've been told. Season ticket holders will be able to get. What's that?
Was it in like March or something?
They haven't really publicized any dates yet. I think a lot of what's going on with the stadium, they're still trying to figure out. And I think they're kind of just putting it together as it comes along. I have been told that season ticket holders will be able to tour it. I'm sure if I just asked, I might be able to get some tours too. So that might be what I look to do here before. I don't want to go right now. I kind of want to see it almost done, not in a half-finished state. Some of the pictures I drove by today, and it looked pretty good from the outside. If you come from the stadium from one direction, you actually come up a hill, and the stadium just basically appears right in front of you out of nowhere. So it's a pretty dramatic entrance from that view. I don't think a lot of people will be coming from that direction, but where I work and how I can get to the stadium is probably the best way to go. But it's a pretty nice view of the stadium basically coming up out of the ground. I get there before the exhibition game.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, having only been off of the new stadium kick, back in 2010 is when the Twins opened up. So pretty recent. I can tell you that the timeline that we ran into was, I think it was probably early to mid-March is when they did the open house up here. Then had a exhibition game, I want to say like April 1st. I think it was March 31st is when they had a college game, and then April 1st and 2nd played the Cardinals up here. So it sounds like they're probably going to be on a similar schedule down in Atlanta. And speaking of
right, I think March 31st is the exhibition game with the Yankees. It's only open to season ticket holders. And then I think it's 2.5 weeks later we open up against the Padres. So
nice.
Should be pretty neat to get in there before anybody else really can as a season ticket holder for a game, and be able to kind of really look at how to attack it from a ball hawking standpoint.
And maybe
just
also
look what I've seen
right away.
Oh yeah, the commemoratives, we'll see if they'll be using them for that. But hopefully, maybe they'll just throw one to everybody. Here, you get a ball, and you get a ball, and just like Oprah's out there or something. But it's going to be. No, I'm definitely going to miss Turner Field because it was, for lack of a better word, it was easy to ball hawk there. I'm pretty sure SunTrust is going to be a lot more challenging, and I'm thinking it's going to have a lot more rules too. So
at least early on,
just going to be how can I get away with breaking the rules, maybe, or just kind of bending them a little bit.
Speaking of new stadiums, Atlanta doesn't have just one new stadium, but a second new stadium opening up, and they can finally shut down their football stadium now that the Falcons have used it to its full potential this year.
They have, and something that I'm kind of torn about because I'm originally from New England, and I live in Atlanta, so I have the team I grew up watching here versus the team that I am the city of watching now. Atlanta Falcons ties to my university and my hometown as well involved. So it's a big whole conundrum. Basically, I don't care who wins.
It's win-win for you.
It is. So. All right. Anything else on your end tonight, Tony?
I think that is it.
Oh.
How about you?
I think we can call it a show.
Nice. And if you're looking for another show to look into, it's an audio podcast, The Hilarious World of Depression. Look it up.
Do they make it a laughing matter?
They do. So it's not just going to depress you. It's a bunch of comedians that I think a lot of people will know. One of the big names so far has been Maria Bamford, who's very funny. And check it out. Any recommendations that you want to give?
Let's see. Let me think. From a world of comedy, I would go with Bert Kreischer. the Machine. Very hilarious, very off-putting at times. Talks about some things that might be difficult to listen to at times, but he's funny as hell.
So Mrs. Abneri wouldn't be fully on board?
Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, Eric, do not listen to him. Your mom would ground you and probably give you a spanking too.
A spanking? Ooh. Is that our cue? Is that the cue?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's time for us to go. Bye.
We love you.